A timeless masterpiece, a cast that defined an era, yet behind the scenes, fate had its own script. Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968, remains a cinematic legend, but the lives of its stars took unexpected turns, tragedies, accidents, and struggles that shaped their journeys. Over 5 decades later, where are they now? Some vanished from the spotlight, while others faced life-altering events that changed everything. From career highs to devastating setbacks, their stories are filled with twists worthy of a Western epic. Join us as we unveil the shocking realities behind the icons who once ruled the silver screen. Claudia Cardinale, who portrayed Jill McBain in Once Upon a Time in the West, was just 30 when she took on the role of a widowed New Orleans prostitute navigating survival and revenge in the American West. Her performance exuded strength, dignity, and sensuality, defining her as a powerful female lead in a genre dominated by men. Despite her fame, Cardinale's personal life was fraught with challenges. She had a secret child, Patrick, born from a traumatic assault when she was a teenager, his existence kept hidden for years. Later, she married Italian director Pasquale Squitieri, with whom she had a turbulent relationship marked by professional jealousy and long separations. Their union produced no children, and although they remained together until his death, the relationship was strained. Claudia grew distant from her siblings, and reports of depression in her later years surfaced. She faced 5 significant tragedies: her son's addiction issues, losing 2 close friends to suicide, a house fire that destroyed personal memorabilia, ongoing hearing loss, and late career typecasting. Now 87, she lives modestly in Paris with a caregiver, suffering from early dementia. Her estate is estimated at $3 million, much of it tied to film royalties and property in Rome. Jason Robards, who played the wry outlaw Cheyenne in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 46 during filming and brought gravitas and vulnerability to the role of a man caught between freedom and extinction. His weathered charm made Cheyenne one of the film's most human characters. Off-screen, Robards endured a tumultuous life. He was married 4 times, most famously to actress Lauren Bacall, with whom he had a son, actor Sam Robards. Their marriage collapsed under the weight of Robards' alcoholism. He had 6 children in total, but his relationships with them were distant and often strained by his unpredictable behavior and erratic career choices. His post-Western career saw a sharp decline in the 1980s as his health worsened. Tragedy haunted him. He survived a near-fatal car crash, lost 2 homes to fire, battled throat cancer that robbed him of part of his voice, and alienated many friends due to his drinking. He died in 2000 at the age of 78 from lung cancer. Though critically respected, he died nearly penniless, his estate valued at just $400,000, mostly in unpaid royalties and a small home in Connecticut. Gabrielle Ferzetti, who gave life to Morton in Once Upon a Time in the West, the crippled railroad baron chasing an impossible dream of reaching the sea before death, was 44 at the time. His portrayal captured the decay of ambition and the moral erosion of unchecked industrialism. Though respected in European cinema, Ferzetti's post-film career faltered. Typecast as aristocrats or villains, he never again achieved the acclaim of his 1960s roles. Married once to the reclusive artist Claudia Vernetti, their union lasted over 30 years but was marked by long separations and a miscarriage that permanently changed their emotional dynamic. They had 1 daughter, Anna, who became estranged in adulthood following legal disputes over property. Ferzetti suffered from 5 major tragedies: a severe stroke in 1998, financial losses during Italy's economic downturn, the suicide of a close friend and co-star, public battles with memory loss, and increasing reclusion after his wife's institutionalization in 2010. He passed away in 2015 at the age of 90 from complications of pneumonia. At the time of his death, he lived alone in a modest Roman apartment. His estate, once sizable, had dwindled to approximately $300,000. Woody Strode, who portrayed Stoney in Once Upon a Time in the West, the silent, enigmatic gunman in the film's unforgettable opening scene, was 54 at the time. With his stoic intensity and striking presence, Strode was a rare black actor breaking ground in a genre that often excluded people of color. Yet, his success never fully translated into stability. He was married to Hawaiian princess Lukiloanakalailoa, and together they had 2 children, but their union suffered from his long absences and the racial prejudices they encountered. After her untimely death in 1980, Strode became a loner, struggling with grief and alienation. His post-Western career consisted mostly of minor roles in B-movies and television, with diminishing returns. Tragedy followed him: the death of his wife, his son's estrangement due to inheritance disputes, a failed ranch investment in Arizona, chronic back pain from football injuries, and increasing depression. He died in 1994 at age 80 from lung cancer. Though honored as a trailblazer, he died nearly forgotten by Hollywood, with an estate estimated at just $150,000, largely tied up in debt and unproduced film scripts he left behind. Jack Elam, who played the twitchy, grizzled outlaw Snakey in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 47 when he appeared in the film's hauntingly silent opening. His milky eye and sinister presence made him a Western icon. But behind the menacing stare was a man plagued by inner chaos. Married once to Jean Elam, their 40-year union was marked by long separations and private griefs. They had 2 children, Jacqueline and Scott, though Jack was often absent, swallowed by the industry's demands. His career declined sharply after the Western boom faded in the late 70s, leaving him typecast and mostly unemployed. He reportedly battled severe depression, arthritis, and alcoholism in the 1980s. His daughter distanced herself after a bitter inheritance dispute, and his son died tragically in a motorcycle crash in 1988. Jack spent his final years reclusive in Oregon, rarely seen in public. He passed away in 2003 at age 82 due to congestive heart failure. His estate was modest, estimated at $500,000, much of it lost to medical expenses and bad investments. Though remembered warmly by fans, Elam's final decades were shadowed by loss and regret. Keenan Wynn, who briefly appeared as the Grufftown sheriff in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 62 when he brought his gravelly authority to the role. A seasoned character actor, his face was familiar to mid-century audiences, but few knew of his private torment. Married 3 times, first to Evelyn Abbott, who left him for his best friend Van Johnson. His subsequent marriages to Betty Jane Butler and Charlie Hudson both collapsed under the weight of infidelity and addiction. He fathered 5 children, though he was estranged from 2 due to violent outbursts fueled by alcohol. Wynn's career unraveled in the 1980s as his health declined. He suffered multiple strokes, and his speech became slurred. He died in 1986 at 70 from pancreatic cancer, bitter and alone in a small Los Angeles apartment. His estate was reportedly only $300,000, with much of it going toward back taxes and legal fees. Friends later admitted he feared dying forgotten, a fear not entirely unfounded. Henry Fonda, who chillingly played the remorseless killer Frank in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 63 when he accepted the role that forever altered his image. Known for virtuous, upright characters, Fonda's dark turn stunned audiences. In private, he was distant and emotionally unavailable, traits that haunted both his marriages and his children, Jane and Peter. He married 5 times. His first wife Frances Ford Seymour died by suicide, which deeply affected his children and left Fonda emotionally scarred. His later marriages were unstable. His final wife, Shirley Mae Adams, stayed with him, though the marriage was reportedly cold and largely practical. Despite professional success, he struggled with undiagnosed depression and alienation from his children. Fonda died in 1982 at 77 from heart disease, shortly after receiving an honorary Oscar. His estate was valued at $5 million, though Jane later spoke of how little emotional legacy he left behind. Admired on screen, he was a mystery to those closest to him, a man whose silence hurt more than his words ever could. Frank Wolf, who portrayed Brett McBain in Once Upon a Time in the West, the earnest settler whose murder triggers the film's sweeping revenge plot, was only 40 during filming. A thoughtful, passionate performer, Wolf's talent was evident, yet his career never matched his ambition. After moving to Europe for steadier work in Italian cinema, he struggled with homesickness, depression, and a failing marriage to German actress Karen Ball, which ended in a bitter divorce. They had one son, Andreas, whom Wolf rarely saw after the split. Isolated and suffering from untreated bipolar disorder, Wolf's career faltered in the early 70s. In 1971, while filming in Rome, he took his own life at the age of 43 by slashing his wrists in a hotel bathroom. Friends revealed he had attempted suicide before but never received psychiatric help. His estate was valued at less than $100,000, most of which went to unpaid debts. Today, he's remembered as a ghost of what might have been, a fleeting talent swallowed by sorrow too deep to voice. Leon Ostander, who played the grizzled barman in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 65 when he brought a rough-edged charm and sardonic wit to the saloon scenes. His gravelly voice and no-nonsense demeanor lent authenticity to a role that, though supporting, became a fan favorite. Stander's post-film career was marred by blacklisting during the McCarthy era, and though he made a comeback in TV during the 80s, the years had taken a toll. He married 5 times. His longest and most tumultuous marriage was to actress Diana Radway, with whom he had 3 children, Julian, Marta, and Leo. The couple's constant fighting and eventual divorce in 1978 left emotional scars on the family. Stander never fully reconciled with 2 of his children. Later years brought financial difficulties and loneliness, compounded by chronic lung disease. His career waned in the 90s, leaving him bitter about Hollywood's treatment of aging actors. Stander died in 1994 at the age of 86 due to lung cancer. His estate was modest, valued around $250,000, with most of it left to his youngest son, Leo. Charles Bronson, who portrayed the enigmatic harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 46 when he brought icy stoicism and silent fury to the gunslinger role. His performance, driven by a painful backstory of vengeance, became one of the most iconic in spaghetti western history. Despite a tough exterior, Bronson's personal life was racked with sorrow. He married British actress Jill Ireland, but their seemingly glamorous life was shattered when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. After her death in 1990, Bronson became reclusive and increasingly paranoid, even estranging himself from several of his 7 children, Zulika, Katrina, and Tony among them. Bronson's post-Western roles dwindled as his health declined due to Alzheimer's and complications from pneumonia. He died in 2003 at age 81, in a nursing home, far from the spotlight he once dominated. He was survived by a fractured family and an estate estimated at $45 million, most of which was divided among his children in a complex legal battle that dragged on for years. Aldo Berti, who played one of Frank's gunmen in Once Upon a Time in the West, was only 27 when he took on the minor but memorable role. With fierce eyes and a lean build, he contributed to the menacing aura of the gang. Though he continued acting in Italian cinema throughout the 1970s, Berti struggled to break out of typecast roles, often relegated to background villains. He married Lucia Rinaldi, a theater actress, in 1974, but their union lasted barely 4 years due to infidelity and financial stress. They had one daughter, Serena, whom Berti rarely saw. By the late 80s, he had virtually disappeared from the public eye, rumored to be working odd jobs in Rome and suffering from depression. His alcoholism and isolation worsened after a car accident left him with a permanent limp. Though he never officially retired, Berti faded into obscurity. He reportedly died in 1993 at the age of 52 from liver failure. His estate was minimal, valued at under $30,000, with few mourners at his funeral besides his estranged daughter. Frank Branagh, cast as one of Frank's henchmen in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 43 when he lent his rugged visage and cold brutality to the film's roster of killers. A stalwart of Spanish-Italian westerns, Branagh became a reliable face in action cinema, though rarely a star. Despite dozens of roles, financial success eluded him. He married his longtime makeup artist, Elena Suarez, in 1965, but the marriage dissolved after their son Diego died of a heroin overdose in 1981. The tragedy fractured their relationship and left Branagh emotionally withdrawn. He battled with alcohol abuse for decades and suffered from untreated diabetes. His career slowed dramatically by the late 1990s, with small uncredited parts marking the end of his filmography. He spent his final years living in a small apartment in Madrid, reliant on government assistance. Branagh passed away in 2012 at the age of 77 from heart complications. His estate was modest, estimated at around $80,000, most of which went to medical debts and funeral costs. Spartaco Conversi, who portrayed one of Frank's gunmen in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 35 when he appeared in the haunting opening scene, his quiet menace contributing to the film's slow-burning dread. Despite this iconic appearance, Conversi's acting career waned shortly afterward. He married Italian costume designer Renata Fulci in 1969, but their union was marked by bitterness and separation, as Renata struggled with his mounting alcoholism. They had one son, Luca, who tragically died in a boating accident at age 11, sending Conversi into a deep depression. He retreated from public life, living in a deteriorating farmhouse outside Bologna. Estranged from the industry and plagued by financial hardship, he took odd jobs, sometimes as a night watchman or cemetery caretaker. Conversi died alone in 1998 at the age of 64 due to liver failure. Few attended his funeral, and his estate was estimated at under €20,000, consisting mainly of debts and the decaying farmhouse. Forgotten by most, his brooding stare in Leone's masterpiece remains his lasting trace on cinema. Aldo Sambro, who played one of Frank's most recognizable henchmen in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 38 when he brought brutal intensity to the screen with his fierce presence. Known for his menacing roles in spaghetti westerns, his typecasting locked him in a cinematic prison of villainy. Off-screen, Sambro lived a life filled with contradictions. He married Maria Belén Ortega, a dancer he met on a Madrid film set, but the marriage quickly disintegrated after the death of their only daughter, Clara, from leukemia at age 7. Devastated, Sambro buried himself in low-budget films that grew more exploitative over time. Despite his iconic status in cult cinema, he felt forgotten by mainstream audiences. He struggled with chronic lung disease brought on by years of cigar smoking and died in 2010 at 79 from a stroke. His final years were spent in quiet bitterness in Alicante, surviving mostly on a modest Spanish actor's pension. His estate was valued at €120,000, mostly consisting of royalties and memorabilia that collectors would later fight over. Saturno Serra, a brooding presence as one of Frank's silent assassins in Once Upon a Time in the West, was 33 when he filmed his brief but eerie role. Though largely unknown, Serra's chiseled face and sharp eyes carved him a niche in minor genre films. His post-Western career floundered, and he gradually faded into obscurity. He married a Sicilian singer, Antonia Bellini, in 1971, and they had 3 children, Pietro, Luisa, and Davide. But the family suffered frequent relocations due to Serra's inability to hold consistent work, straining the marriage beyond repair. By 1984, they had divorced amid financial turmoil and public arguments. Serra became increasingly reclusive, developing paranoid delusions and battling untreated bipolar disorder. His last known acting credit was in a failed stage production in Naples in 1992. He died in 2003 at the age of 67 from heart complications, found alone in a rented room. His estate was estimated at €8,000, the remnants of a life that burned briefly on screen but was long haunted by shadows off it. Who is your favorite character from Once Upon a Time in the West? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.